Charlene pulled up, and as she was pulling up, the coroner was there covering Michelle's body with a sheet, found with a needle in her arm. Michelle was not that kind of junkie. She did not shoot up. This was a murder, but the reality of it is this type of death will not get investigated any further. Just another dead junkie. And that dead junkie had parents, had dreams, had hopes.
Typically, homeless people become addicts. They didn't. They were not addicts and then became homeless.
Daniel died of cancer because of the fact Daniel could not get the care that he needed. Gene was, I believe, 24 or 25 years old. He was murdered. Someone slit his throat. John, suicide. Michael, suicide. Stephen, suicide. He was a NASA engineer. Sylvester just died. And you know who Sylvester's told people he knew that if he was ever found dead or he died? He said, you need to call Matthew's Hope. Mm-hmm. We were fans.
At his funeral, that's what his family said.
I was family.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're the only family they have.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Lewis with We Are Winter Garden, and we are joined today with Pastor Scott, who is the founder and CEO of Matthew's Hope, and Shelley Bradford, who is the president and executive director of Matthew's Hope. Welcome to episode 48 of Straight Talk, No BS with Matthew's Hope, where we're going to be talking about a few of the guests at Matthew's Hope who have passed away already this year and the way that the public views these deaths. So in the latest issue of Moving Forward magazine, there's an article titled, Just Another Dead Junkie. Can you tell us the story of that article?
Yeah, I tell you, those that are watching this. I mean, it's in the magazine. It's right here, and it talks about Michelle. And the title comes from the fact that the comment was actually made and has been made in the past. Well, it's just another dead junkie, and the saddest part about this particular case with Michelle, if people had seen what she looked like.
She was beautiful.
Oh, she was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And she was going to be a professional. I'm trying to remember specifically what she was going to school for. I'm not sure how the wheels fell off, but the wheels fell off. And what I will also tell you is Michelle was seeking help before her death. And we had locally here in Brevard, there was no place for us to take her. She wanted to detox. She wanted to try to restart her life. And so her parents, who are out of Pinellas County, they're actually divorced. I don't know if they're both out of Pinellas County, but they're divorced. They came together as parents, which is the right thing to do. They scooped her up. They took her over there. They went in front of the courts to become Michelle's guardian so that they could make decisions for her while she was going for treatment and take care of her. And they went before the judge. The judge denied it. Within days, she was back in Brevard County. And a few days after that, she was found. In fact, Charlene pulled up in our mobile unit that goes out throughout the week. Charlene is probably the closest, at least in Brevard County, probably everywhere, with the homeless. And she pulled up to serve them. And as she was pulling up, the coroner was there covering Michelle's body with a sheet. And she had asked, she says, can I at least pray for her? And they said, no, you can't cross the line. Mm-hmm. The other disappointment out of this is that she was found with a needle in her arm. And Michelle was not that kind of junkie. Mm-hmm. She did not shoot up. So some of the people she was with, oddly enough, have been known to shoot up and have been around other people that didn't shoot up that died from shooting up. Mm-hmm. So she was either served what they are called so there's different names for it, but some call it a death cocktail. It's not enough it's not to get you high, it's to kill you. And so she died that manner, and that was pretty much the end of the investigation. whether the police said it or not. And we've had a great relationship so far with Cocoa PD and the chief. But the reality of it is this type of death will not get investigated any further. Now, our mental health care counselor, she has a master's in mental health, had known Michelle for a long time, knew her when she worked at the methadone clinic and different things like that. And Michelle was never known to put a needle in her arm. And so the fact that she died that way is disturbing at best.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that our court system and our legal system will just treat it, whether they say it or not, just another dead junkie. Others have just commented, just another dead junkie. And that dead junkie had parents, had dreams, had hopes. She had parents that could no longer live together, but came together to help their child get better.
Who was wanting to be helped.
A child that wanted, Tracy wanted to get better. Okay. And because people don't realize, we have people come to us weekly in tears. I'm ready to get clean. Well, you can't just quit drugs. You have to detox. And truly, I detoxed myself, but years ago, not a wise move. But when you try to detox off some of the drugs these folks are on, heroin, or, in her case, she took a lot of what's called mollies. And mollies deaden you in a lot of ways, but they also sexually enhance things for you. So my guess is that because she was most likely a victim also, we believe, of sexual trafficking, human trafficking, that is why she was either being fed those, or I can tell you that there is a what we call the compound down the road. It is not in the city limits of Cocoa. It's in county limits. And I can tell you that compound, everybody knows, including myself, because I have been approached by the individual who runs it. Everybody knows that this particular person is responsible for the human trafficking that's going on around here, has been for years, highly responsible for many of the drugs. And quite honestly, the sheriff here, Wayne Ivey, though he has rated it, the charges end up being really minor. And this individual, last time, they arrested, I think, 22 or 24 people. And we knew several in the picture that were actually being trafficked out of that compound that went to jail. And their charges were not a lot different than his. His bond was something like $6,000 or $60,000, which means he would have had to come up with $6,000. He probably had that in his pocket. He was out within days. And he was out on charges that had happened in Osceola County just a few weeks prior to that on different things. And so you have to wonder how an individual continues to evade the law, and not get pushed. And in my opinion, this was a murder. This was a murder that the blood is on the hands of those people that turned a blind eye every time, from the judge on down. Because when people ask for help and you deny it because of human rights.
She was put on trial even before.
She was given the death sentence.
Yeah.
The minute they said to the parents, that's not your role anymore. She, like I said, she was back here within days and was dead a few days later. She was given a death sentence by a judge in Pinellas County.
Mm-hmm.
And if the judge was sitting here and I don't know them, I would look in their face and just say, how dare you? Okay, there's a place where we have to start looking at things and quit not just one dead junkie, not a homeless person, let's get outside the box and say, here's an individual, here's a human being. What kills me often, and I don't mean to rattle, and Shelley, you will get a chance to talk, I promise. The sad part about this, as a Christian, a flawed Christian, probably drink, probably cuss way too much, but a flawed Christian, here's what I am. I am true to my faith. And many of these people are people that claim to be people of faith. And if that is the case, then judgment will be handled But your opportunity to judge on this side of of heaven was missed. You had an opportunity and you blew it. And these people, in my opinion, there's no legal thing that can be done, but I hope they think about it, and I hope they learn about it and think about it every day.
You think they will?
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I mean, we have, those that can't see us, and we have a banner behind us, and we've been pushing the last few months that not here is not an answer. So it says, the banner actually says, homelessness should not be a crime due to a new law that goes in effect October 1st that makes it illegal to sleep outside. What does that have to do with Michelle's death? Well, it has everything to do with Michelle's death, because what happens is we are using money inappropriately. We are allowed, to me, if you're going to be in law enforcement, you do that because it's a calling. When my daughter was called to be in law enforcement, what she said to me, and my mouth went dry the day she said, Daddy, it was a calling. When I left my career to go into ministry, it was a calling, okay? You can't let this become a job.
Yeah.
When it becomes a job, it's time to go.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think the sheriff, the judge, I can go right down the path. They're protecting their job as opposed to protecting and serve the people. And I would invite Wayne Ivey right here, right now, to come over here and come on our podcast and explain how he believes this is supposed to work. Because he also claims to be a man of faith. And I trust him when he says that. I'm not going to judge him on that. I don't know. He claims to be a man of faith. How do you reconcile your claim to faith? And I would ask that right now by the Christian right, because of the things that are happening. So that's just one example is a very lost soul for whatever reason. She got involved. She had a boyfriend, and the boyfriend took her down a path. Now, some would say, well, she was, she should have been smart enough to know better. Well, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Most of us that act like an adult or try to these days can think of 1,000 things in our background that we probably should have made a better choice, or we shouldn't have been so influenced.
Yep.
Yeah.
No.
Doesn't mean she didn't deserve to be helped. So, Shelley, most people assume that people who are experiencing homelessness, they're drug addicts or alcoholics. Is that really the case?
Typically that is not the case. Typically, homeless people become addicts. They were not addicts and then became homeless.
Wow.
They come in and they self-medicate, and then that's when they become addicts because they're not able to get the care that they need. So they're trying to deaden their feelings a lot of times.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Scott, Michelle, she's not the only guest of Matthew's Hope that has passed away this year. You have some badges here for those who can't see, but he has a stack full of badges, and it's giving me chills because I'm seeing these faces.
And this is just
this year. This is just Brevard.
For Brevard,
and
right.
these are the only ones that we know of that we serve personally.
How many are in your hand right now?
Oh gosh, 1, 2, 3.
He has a stack here.
Probably 16?
Yeah, 15 or 16. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like I said, those are the ones that we know of for sure. But
So, Scott, what are these badges? What are they used for?
What happens is when somebody registers with us, we start building a file on everything we give them, everything we help for. Their record goes in there, their credit report goes in there. Pretty much their life goes in that file. And then each time they check in with us, they're given a badge and a lanyard so that they can be, we don't use street names here, so they can be used by their name. There's more dignity than that. You might be known as Stinky John out there, but here you're just John or Jonathan or Johnny, what have you. So we give them a badge, and it has what's called their MH number. And that MH number is a file that we keep from them from the day we meet them. And so once somebody passes, then these badges end up on my desk. And then what we do is we order memorial bricks that their names and the bricks will go into memorial gardens. So that's why I have them in hand. For the sake of our conversation today, and again, for those that can't see it, I know each one of these people individually. What I've asked is our staff has just put a little reminder on the back of how each one of them passed. And I want to share that with our folks. And keep in mind, again, this is just this year.
Right.
Okay. This is just our portion of Brevard. This doesn't include Orange County, doesn't include all of Brevard. These are just the people we serve. Okay, we have Daniel here, and Daniel died of cancer. Daniel died of cancer because of the fact Daniel could not get the care that he needed. And instead of even dying in hospice as he was dying, we found him. Okay, we found him dead. Okay, we have Harold here, and Harold, he was hit by a train. But he was not trying to commit suicide. We've had a lot of suicides this year that are not all in this pile. Okay. But he was hit by a train because his foot got stuck when he was trying to get away from his camp because people were coming to his camp. He didn't know who they were. He thought he was going to get in trouble from the law. He tried to run from the camp. Somehow his foot got stuck. He tripped. And if you don't know Brightline, those things move really fast, and Harold is gone. Dean was an alcoholic that wanted to, he suffered from a lot of health issues. He was in a lot of pain, and he drank his pain away until he literally fell into a local lake and drowned. Okay. Gene was accosted by someone else. We don't know if they're homeless or not. Gene was, I believe, 24 or 25 years old. And he was murdered. Someone slit his throat. Josh had several health complications. He had seizures and things like that. And they said by the time we hadn't seen him, we went looking for him. He was eventually found, and they believed he had died in his tent roughly 7 days before he was found. John, suicide. Michael, suicide. Stephen, suicide. Megan, suicide. Melissa, suicide. Stephen, suicide. Okay. These people, I can tell you in this group, check this guy out. John, I'm going to cover his name. Those of you can see it. I don't know if you can see his picture. I know it's hard to see. John was actually an engineer, and he was a NASA engineer. And John, when things went bad in the space program a number of years ago, and we've had several of these happen, they became unemployed and couldn't catch on, became depressed, lost his wife, and the wheels just kept falling off. Stephen, what a sweetheart. This guy was a writer, a technical writer, and so he did things like for aircraft, aircraft manuals, things like that. Was someone who did the technical writing on that. So this wasn't a dumb person. Megan had been a single mom.
Wow, she's so pretty.
Yeah. She's okay. And Megan had been a single mom, and life fell apart on her. If I believe right, the parents ended up taking the kids in, and like I said, eventually she committed suicide. Josh, I mean, he was a contractor.
So these aren't just another dead junkie.
Right.
These are not just another dead junkie. Most of these people had a career. Many had an education. Many had families. Some had families that were gone now. Some had families that had given up. It's easy to give up. I know how it happens. I mean, we've had that in my own family. So they're not just another dead junkie. Many of these in this pile never once used drugs. Okay. Suicide has happened a lot of different ways. I don't think I want to get into how that was done. But let's just say we have train, rail, we have US 1, we have a bridge. There's a lot of ways to accomplish that.
Shelley, do you have any stories?
Yeah, let's talk about a couple of ours that we've lost over in Orange County that recently.
Some that we've
known
Justin,
for years.
My gosh, he started with Matthew's Hope when I started Matthew's. So I knew him before Matthew's Hope.
Yeah, and he was still a young kid, really. I mean, he was just in his 30s. Another thing that it's not always the drugs that take them out. It doesn't help for sure. We lost 2 people in the last 2 weeks over in Orange County to heat. Wow. And that's something that we don't always think about, because we get to go inside into our nice air-conditioned cars and homes. So the heat index in Florida has really, caused an issue as well as we've lost these people, because those 2 we probably would not have lost if it hadn't been for the heat.
Wow.
At least not at this time. I think eventually we would have lost him. Of course, we're all going to,
Sure.
you know.
Why is it so important for the public to see these faces and hear their stories behind these faces?
They're just people.
They're people.
They're just people.
And for the Christian types, they're God's children.
Right.
Somebody
There's somebody loves
loved
them.
them.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody cared at one time or another. I mean, Justin was a sweet soul.
Mm-hmm. He was. And when he was,
We tried to help him one time years ago. Supposedly, if we helped him get out to Las Vegas to some family there, they were willing to help get on. I don't know what happened out there. He ended up being gang raped. By the time he made it back to Florida, he was literally nonverbal.
Wow.
He would not speak. He would not look you in the eye. And one day, I'm like snapping my fingers, looking at him. He's sitting on the steps. I'm like, Justin. And all of a sudden, he kind of looks, he'd been looking at me, and all of a sudden he goes, breathing in. Pastor Scott. And the conversation started. And he got better, but there was so much damage.
Remember, for a while, though, he was even in our program.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He'd been in our transitional housing one time. He was working in the shop.
He did great.
There were resources. I mean, the sad part is, Matthew's Hope is broke. Now, we've often said we were broke since day one. We've always been able to pay our bills. The truth is, right now, we're borrowing money to stay open. The resources are becoming harder to get by. And at that particular time, especially with Justin, is we didn't have all the mental health care help that we currently do.
Okay.
We got some wonderful professionals that have that could make a lot more money in the rest of the world, but are part of our medical and mental health care team that are doing a lot of work that our emergency rooms aren't doing, our hospitals aren't doing, our what you would consider normal resources for mental health and things aren't doing. We've kind of taken that on, not by choice, but by
necessity.
Yeah. But there's times where we always say, do what you can, not what you can't. Sometimes the hardest part about Matthew's Hope is we too know how much more needs to be done, but this is all we can do right now. But the reason Shelley is my partner in this now, as president of Matthew's Hope, is she gets it. We can't do, a few years ago, we didn't have mental health care. Now we have the ability to get prescriptions filled and counseling done and stuff. But when I think of the hundreds of people we've buried over the years that I truly believe would be alive today, had someone, if not us, someone with the wherewithal, with all the money that's been spent, was able to nobody just give a damn. What, one of the things what is there anything I can do for you? And a lot of these people don't need and don't require a whole lot. We often hear, you heard me. You saw me. The big one is you came back, because we have a lot of people out there that are helping the homeless, those that can't see. I just made quotation marks, that usually create bigger problems because they're not qualified. And what happens is they tilt the ship. And so we got to figure out how to go back out there and write it back up all the time.
Build that trust.
Build it and what have you, because it's not about, you can't enable people. Giving people stuff is not the answer. Using resources to address real issues, peeling the onion back. One of the examples I give all the time is I say, if you were in my office and your nose was running and you kept sniffling and imagine I take tissues out and I'm handing to you like $100 bills. This is kind of how it's done. At some point I need to go, well, does Tracy have a cold? Does she have allergies? Does she have a cocaine habit like I did? What's going on? What happens is most resources are going towards addressing the symptoms rather than the cause. What Matthew's Hope tries to do is we legitimately try to peel the onion back, build a relationship, build dignity within these people so they care, so that we can peel that onion back far enough to understand what made it. The one thing I ask people that are listening or watching is next time you see someone who you think is homeless, ask yourself what possibly took place in that person's life that made it what appears to be acceptable to live that way, to look that way, to smell that way, what have you. And I think if we start looking the problem in the eye, we can then address it much better. But I don't know how much life Matthew's Hope has in her. At the current need is just growing, and quite honestly, we have fires in parts of our country. We have wars going on. We have
Hurricanes.
refugees, hurricanes, storms, flooding. And so money goes all over the place, and they're all good needs. But the reality of it is we are finding ourselves as a nonprofit, a small nonprofit, born and bred right here in Florida. We just don't have the resources, and I'm not sure how much longer we're going to be able to continue to address the situation without more donors and partnerships taking place and conversations with leaders in the community and what have you to address it. And if we don't, we're going to continue to bury the Michelles, the Melissas, the Stevens, the Joshes, the Jeans, the Deans, the Harolds, the Daniels, the Michelles, the Megans, the Stevens, the Johns, the Michaels. The list goes on. The Justins and
Travis.
Travis. Oh my
Sylvester.
God. Yeah, I didn't even think about Sylvester. Just died.
Yeah.
Sylvester died mainly just because of poor health and gotten old.
Heart attack. Yeah.
Had a heart attack and died. But the thing is, what they said at her funeral? They thanked Matthew's Hope.
Yeah.
And you know who Sylvester's told people he knew that if he was ever found dead or he died, he said, you need to call Matthew's Hope. We were fan.
At his funeral, that's what his family said.
I was family.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're the only family they have. And they're his. It's almost, they're his. And for that reason alone, those of you that claim to be Christians, if we believe that they are his, then it's time we do something. We can't keep ignoring it. We can't keep bitching about the guy who passed our house or that was sitting out in front of a restaurant panhandling. Do I like it? No, I don't like it any more than you do. Right. But complaining about it isn't fixing it. And one last thing I'll say, if your pastor ever talks about eradicating homelessness, get up and walk out. Homelessness biblically will be with us till the very end. So it'll be with us always. And so understanding that doesn't mean we give up on it. It means that we do what we can, not what we can't. But for God's sakes, for the love of God, do something.
Well, you guys have helped so many guests move forward, getting out of the woods, getting out of the car and into a home.
Daniel, Ice Cream Daniel,
Man.
Okay, out of our office, he said it better than anybody ever has in describing me in a few episodes back. And he said, Scott has the worst batting average ever.
He thought he was going to get fired for saying that.
Okay. He was right. But he said, when we hit, when we hit, it is, I'm not putting words in his mouth, but something along the line. It's pretty spectacular. When you see the lights going back on in the eyes of someone who is dead, they're walking dead.
Yep.
You've made an investment into the life of another when you donate to Matthew's Hope. People feed people, people clothe people. That's all well and fine. Matthew's Hope takes your investment, rolls it in and rolls it out as solid, good stewards of your investment, and lives are changed. We can't save all of them, honestly. I mean, we've proven that with just the articles that are in this magazine and the badges we've shared today. But I got to tell you, there's a bunch of people out there also that are independent now. They have the things they need. They are paying their way. They are contributing to society. Just because someone said, what do you need today? Someone gave a damn.
Shelley, how can people help?
Donate. donate. Finance it, financial. You can go to our Facebook page, Matthew's Hope Brevard, Matthew's Hope Orange County. And we always have a list up there that's going to be, up to date as best as possible. When we don't need it, we take it off. When we need it, we put it back on. Donate. That is really how Matthew's Hope stays afloat, is by donations.
Look, we're at crisis mode. There's not, behind the scenes, even today, we've been working behind the scenes because the truth is we're at crisis mode, and we've been in trouble before. We have been against the wall before, but we're at crisis mode. And if the community doesn't turn out, this is no stretch of the imagination. Matthew's Hope will not be here. And so it's not something we planned on sharing in this episode, whatever, but it's the truth. It's the truth. And if not us, then who? Mm-hmm. And my hope is that people will come alongside of us, much like the friends of Moses came alongside Moses and raised his arms.
Mm-hmm.
Shelley, is there any other stories?
We need you to raise our arms.
Yeah.
Any other stories that you want to share?
Oh, probably.
There's lots of stories.
There's lots of stories. I just really wanted to make sure that we focused on the people that we've recently lost, because it's, yes, some of them have been from suicide. Some of them have been from, being hit by a train, as well as some of them have also just been a victim of the heat and a victim of life circumstances and, poor health.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to make sure that we focused on that for sure, because it's not always drugs and alcohol. Sometimes it is just life.
More often not drug.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
I got to put myself in a little bit better mood.
Let's end it
I'm
with something.
a little overwhelmed right now.
Yeah.
But, we're talking about this heat, and a little while back we had about, and God forgive me for not remembering their names, but they donated over 5,000 bottles of water.
Mm-hmm.
And I posted about that. And I got the tar kicked out of me on social media because I was handing out plastic bottles and the environment and all this stuff. And it's not that I think that that's funny, but that's funny. That is some funny shit there. Because I grew up on the water, and I really care about our environment. I think we are destroying our planet. The other side of it is that this heat is real. If you don't believe in global warming, something's happening. I'm not telling you what to believe or not. I can just tell you that even my recent trip to England, it was in the 80s, and that does not happen. It was 80 in Holland in the 80s, and how that does not happen. It's been in the hundreds here. Mm-hmm. Heat index has taken it. I think the day I went out was 113. That's real, and that's dangerous. And my response is I agree. We wish there was a better way. But in the meantime, we're just trying to keep people healthier and alive until something better can happen.
Yeah, right. For sure.
So I had to try to bring myself up somehow because
you guys have a tough job.
Yeah, I wish people could get as close as we do to some of these folks. And Michelle was she was a sweet soul, and stuff happens. And people know my story. I mean, why am I here? Hell, I don't know. I don't know why I'm still here. I mean, but I am. And so rather than just say, celebrate, hey, I got out of it, I figured it out, we're trying to do something about it. And I encourage other Christian folks out there, or people that just care. I don't care what you want to call yourself. Be a Buddhist, doesn't matter to me. But get a little dirt under your fingernails. One of my favorite seminary professors, a guy named Steve Brown, Steve said to me that ministry doesn't happen at the pulpit. Mm-hmm. Ministry, and he says some Christians have scabs on their knees because they're praying, but other Christians have dirt under their fingernails also because they're in the middle of it. And so I want to invite you, anybody that's seeing this or hearing this,
I invite you to not just get scabs on your knees. We need prayers, but let's get a little dirt under your fingernails. We're asking you to join us. And if Matthew's Hope doesn't make it, take over, will you? Somebody needs to take the reins.
Thank you guys both for sharing the stories. And we're thinking and praying for all of the families and for you guys too, because I know that it can't be easy, because I know you guys really form a bond. And like you said, Scott, you guys are family. So thinking and praying for you guys. Thank you guys for listening, watching. Please like, share, subscribe, invite a friend to listen to the podcast and learn more about Matthew's Hope, how they're helping people in our community, and how you can help too.
You know, I just thought before you knock it off, for you wrestling fans, there's my stepdaughter is a huge wrestling fan, and one of the guys she follows is Cody Rhodes, and they call Cody Rhodes the crybaby. I feel like I Cody Rhodes. So watch out, because he's a damn good fighter too, for whatever that fake stuff is worth.
Bye.
Thank you all.